Hello and welcome to another ScarDivi tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to explain to you how to create methods. So these are basically functions and procedures. Now I've got the default ScarDivi screen open here with a new script. So I'm going to remove the program line there, and this way we can get started. Now, basically, what is a method? Well, the begin and end lines here basically represent the main method of the script, which is executed as entry point of your script. So, for example, if you put a simple write line statement in here and you execute that, it prints out the write line statement. Now, basically, a method creates a new code block which can be called with certain parameters. So I'm going to start with a simple procedure. Procedure cannot have a resulting value, so it does not return anything. And basically you define it like this. So you have the procedure keyword, the name of the procedure, a semicolon to close the line. Then you start your begin end block, and actually when you have the main method here, you have to put a dot after the end, but everywhere else end has to be followed by a semicolon, except for certain cases. But in any case, you'll always have one dot at most in your script after the end statement. So this is our new procedure now, ASDF. And basically we can copy our hello world code in there, and when we execute this, it doesn't do anything. So it just compiles a script and it prints out nothing. The reason for this is that the entry point here, the begin end clause, is where the script begins. However, you're not doing anything in there. To call the ASDF block, you have to insert ASDF into the main method. If you run the script now, it will print out hello world. The second thing you might want to try out is parameters. So basically you can pass values to a procedure or function, and you do this by adding parameters such as this. So you have the opening and closing rounds, which contain the parameter definition, and I'm going to put a simple s string in there. So it's basically kind of like a variable, but it's not defined in variable clause, and we name it s string. If you want to define a second string, you can just put a comma here and input the second string name. If you want to insert another type of variable, you have to put a semicolon after the current type, and for example add I integer. And this goes on for every other type of variable you might, parameter you might want to include in there. So I'm going to cut this for a second, and we're going to have the write line print out the contents of the s parameter. So if we run the script now, we get a invalid number of parameters error, which is because we are trying to call ASDF without passing the parameter for the s here. So I'm going to insert the hello world here. When we run it now, it passes hello world to ASDF, and that uses the s to call the write line over here, which prints out hello world, which is the content of our s parameter up here. So that's basically how procedures and parameters work. You can also have local variables in a procedure. For example, I integer over here. which basically means that you can use this variable inside of your procedure, so inside of this block, but nowhere else, unless you define it outside of it, of course, but then you can, the content will always be different. So the content of this variable I will only be accessible inside of this code block, so for this procedure. Also note that a variable has to be declared before it is used. So, for example, if you want to use a global variable, which we learned about in the previous tutorial, let's say s2 as a string, you can use it in here now. Of course, it's empty, so it prints out nothing, but get the idea. You can use it in there like this. And if we move this to below the procedure, it no longer works because it's only defined after the procedure is already compiled. So the procedure here cannot find the s2 variable. So I'm going to remove that now. So that's basically a procedure. Now, a second type of method is the function. Now, a function basically is the exact same thing as a procedure, but it returns a value. So if we want to do that, we use the function keyword here at the front, and we, after the closing round, or in case you have no parameters, you can just do it after the name like that, you specify the return type of the function. Now in this case, I'm going to try using a string return type. And if we want to have it return something, we basically, the convention is using result and assigning a value to that. Let's say ASDF. And now we can use the result of that function to call a second write line. And as you can see, it prints out hello world ASDF. So first in the, when the, well, it basically calls the center statement first, because it has to get the value for the outer statement. So when ASDF is called, it writes out S, sets the result to ASDF, it returns that, and then the write line is called with that result. That's also, I'm not sure if possible in Scar, but probably, no, it's not. Never mind then. So you have to use results to assign to it. You can assign to result as much as you want. You can use it as a variable if you want. So you can put something else in there. So ASDF is overwritten with lol here. As you can see, it writes out hello world lol. And well, that's basically the basics of methods. So as you can see over here in the function list, the ASDF method is also listed. So in case you have a long script, you can click any method and Scar will take you right to it in your script. So, well, that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you next time.